Hey, gun people. This is a couple interesting videos. So, Olmos Park PD down in Texas, right next to San Antonio, evidently their little city passed an ordinance, communist anti-gun community, I guess, said you can't carry a long gun in public. Texas says you can carry a long gun. So, of course, their law is not really lawful, so to speak, but it was passed and the cops are acting on it. And it may sound like I'm defending the cops or protecting the cops, but I'm trying to explain both sides because I think these guys that are doing what they're doing is doing a good thing. I've talked to these guys. They've got a rally on April 7th down at Olmos Park. They're just going to have basically an open carry rally and have some people go down there and say, hey, we're lawfully clearing. We're good people. We're not out to harass anybody. Why are you harassing us? Now, I don't know all the backdrop. From what I talked to these guys, this PD has been known to be heavy-handed. They're anti-gun. San Antonio for years had a no loaded gun in their city. And a lot of cities like to start passing their own little laws to, restrict the Second Amendment. Now, they wouldn't pass a law that said no free speech, you can't do. They wouldn't attack any other amendment except the second. But I digress. Let's take a look at this video. And again, it's going to sound like I'm cracking on these guys, but I'm trying to give people who are doing things like this some tips to make you more successful so the cops and government can't use what you're doing against you. So let's take a look at this.
I spoke to your chief yesterday.
Hey, down on the ground. Get down on the ground, motherfucker. Get down on the
Hey, whoa, keep.
Get down on the ground, motherfucker. Well, that's nice. Rick, you always say cops talk like it. Well, if you're fighting with a dude and you're in a battle, that's one thing. But this guy's standing on a corner and the cops are rolling up, blocking traffic. They're impeding traffic. They're making the incident big. And now they end up arresting these guys and charge them with blocking traffic. So I got some huge issues here. But the cops are going to have some fairly level ground in the court's eyes to stand on for what they did. Even though what what they did is wrong, I'm not the judging. I'm just telling you what the law is going to rule on them.
Keep.
You're the only dangerous motherfucker out here. Stay down on the ground. Come on, you.
Now, before this happened, these guys have, I don't know, 7, 8, 10 people filming in different areas. So they have all kind of First Amendment people out there who are trying to expose things. And it's good that the First Amendment people are joining with the Second Amendment people, because I'm telling you, once the second goes, the first is right. I mean, they've already attacked the first so much. And, they're going after the second. And, the Supreme Court justice that retired, I think it was Stevens, that just said, we need to repeal the Second Amendment. It's archaic. There's a news. If you Google it, I mean, it's just absolutely. The left has always wanted to get the guns. Government wants the guns. They don't want to say it, but they want to get it inch by inch. And that's what they do with gun legislation. So, like I said, what these guys are doing are good. They're open and carry. They're exercising their right. If you have a right and you don't use it, you lose it. And then all of a sudden the government tells you, well, now it's a privilege. Just like they've done with you can't carry a assault weapon unless they give you a permit. Because you didn't use it, now you lost it.
You're committing a felony right now, officer. You are committing a felony. That is an armed terrorist threat.
Okay, when a cop points a gun at you, is it technically assault with a deadly weapon? Yes. Do cops ever get charged with it? No. Cops are going to be covered under officer safety. They're going to be covered under fear. They're going to be covered under we're dealing with somebody with a gun, and, they don't draw guns on each other when other cops have guns. It's only when those pesky tax-paying citizens have guns that they draw down on them. So I understand a cop's perspective from an officer safety. We don't know. It's hard for us to tell. You know what? If a guy's standing on a corner and you've already contacted him and he said he's not planning to hurt anybody and he's just exercising his right, then why don't you talk to him? But I understand there's going to be those people. I mean, hey, in California, hell, if you even eat a Pop-Tart and it looks like a gun while you're holding it, you'll be on the ground, tasered, and have a gunpoint. I mean, any of those anti-freedom communist, states will do that. And Texas is moving that way. I keep telling people that.
This is Olmos Park, guys. Olmos Park, once again. Once again, Olmos Park. Why you got an AR-15 out?
Get away from him.
Articulate the law if broken, and I will.
I am.
Okay. Are you here to hurt anybody?
Negative.
Do you have a gun as well?
Of course I do.
Okay. Get away then.
Now,
Okay, so from a cop's perspective, we're dealing with a guy with a gun. Maybe we're overreacting, maybe we're not. Doesn't matter. They're going to be covered under officer safety. They're going to say these officers have a right to protect their lives. They can't walk up to everybody with a gun because they don't know their intention, and they'll come up with 101 reasons. My answer would be, you walk up to government and other cops with guns every day. Well, they have a background. Well, people that have civil permits have a background. And a background doesn't mean you're a good guy. There's cops that kill their wives. There's cops that kidnap people. There's cops that rape people. So just because you have a background and you carry a gun doesn't mean you're a good guy. So, their argument is totally, it's a paper tiger, but they're going to win in the court's eyes and probably in a jury or public opinion because they're going to say, these poor cops are out there trying to do a job, and now you got this crazy guy with a camera running around, and he's got a gun. And how are they supposed to know who the guy? Well, I mean, if the guy was a bad guy and another guy with a camera is walking by, and he's not shooting him or grabbing him, maybe that's a clue that he doesn't have evil intent. Maybe that's a clue he's not committing a crime with a gun. Maybe if he tells you he's Second Amendment, I mean, look. This is one of those situations that it's iffy, and I understand where cops coming from, but look, you can carry a gun in Texas. Get over it. If a guy isn't committing a crime or doing something, then don't worry about it. If you want to follow him, follow him. There's no law against following somebody. The cops can follow anybody they want. We can follow the cops and videotape them. They can follow us and videotape us. But is it the right? Is a jury or public opinion going to be on your side if you're running around in the middle of the cops dealing with somebody, yelling at them, you're committing a felony, and you can't do that, and yeah, I have a gun, and, it just doesn't come off what I say to, I guess, to buy public support as well as it could. And grant, people are going to say I'm crack on these guys. I think these guys are doing a great job. They got a lot of people. They're videotaping. They have a lot of evidence. And the next day, after this incident, the city council met and repealed their unlawful open carry law. The problem is when these cops were acting, as long as cops are acting in good faith and within policy, they're covered under immunity. These cops are acting within a law that was on the books that they thought was lawful. Therefore, they're covered for immunity, whatever they do. Now, they end up taking these guys, tasing them, and beating the crap out of them, and it's all BS, and they arrest them, and they stack a bunch of charges on them, and they put them in jail overnight, and they, they do some stuff that they shouldn't be doing because they were wrong. And when cops make mistakes and they use force, then they have to come up with a bunch of charges to justify why they use force. They didn't charge a guy with unlawful carry, even though that's why they contacted and pointed at him.
Now, what crime is being committed here?
I will get down.
What crime is being committed here? So you got an AR-15 in hand because a man is lawfully carrying. This guy over here has got a pistol because he's lawfully carrying. How you doing?
So the guy with the gun, that's the lawful carrying, no problem. This guy's a vet, exercising his right to walk down the street. He's got a camera, and somebody thinks he's a bad guy. Maybe it's a beard. Maybe that's a racist. Maybe this should be attacked on a racist thing because they're picking on people with beards. And, maybe they're picking on a peaceful religion, thinking this guy, because he's got a beard. Maybe that's an angle. Because then somebody will listen. If you just make it about the Second Amendment, nobody listens.
Oh, these cops are overreacting to a man lawfully carrying a firearm. We told you guys you were going to learn. Today's your education.
CJ, man, I like you, dude, but man, if you got somebody in the wrong there's no need to poke them in the eye. I mean, comments like that just isn't going to play well in front of the jury. The jury is going to read that as, you guys weren't out there lawfully carrying. You were taunting the officers. You were being rude. You were trying to create a disturbance. You were trying to interfere. And that's what the cops charge them with. Interfering, obstruction, blocking the roadway. They charge them with all these BS crimes, throw them against the wall, see which one sticks. And then now they have a lawful arrest, so they can use force. Now they can use force. Now they can inconvenience you, put you in jail, make you post bail. And then even if you win, you still have the arrest record. You still have the injuries. You still got, your stitches or your scars. I mean, man, like I said, I applaud these guys for not backing down. And maybe more, if more people did this, cops would stop doing it. Government only does things that they can get away with easy. When it becomes hard, government avoids it. Anything that's hard, government avoids. Because usually doing the right thing is harder than doing the wrong thing. The wrong thing is easy and has immediate quick payoff. The right thing takes longer and your payoff isn't as quick. So government is the king of doing the wrong thing because it's fast and easy. So if more people did this, maybe officers would be like, you know what? We can't arrest everybody. If there was 50 people carrying guns, you think they'd do anything? They've got a rally on the 7th, and I don't know how many people they're expecting, but if they have 50 people lawfully clearing guns, I wonder if these cops are going to be out there pointing guns at them and yelling at them and tackling them and banging them. My guess is I doubt it, because government doesn't do a lot of things that they do unless they have the upper hand, which is why if they get the guns, they're going to have the upper hand on the citizens. And that's where tyranny. Don't forget, Venezuela's in the shape they're in. They just outlawed guns 4 years before all this happened. The government knew what was happening. They knew they were stealing. They knew the country was going to fall. And what did they do? They took the guns from the citizens so they couldn't fight back and couldn't protect themselves. And now you got people starving, fighting for food, killing each other. You got gangs over in Venezuela because they took the guns just 4 years before the country collapsed. If you don't think our government's push to get our guns is tied to their overspending, over budgeting, reckless running of this country, well, then you ain't paying attention.
Today's your education, Corporal. At some point, you're going to realize no crime is being committed.
Filming.
The state of Texas.
Filming.
Only.
This guy's got an AR-15 in his hand right now.
Can the House and Senate pass any law that pertains to the penal code?
Here, I'm going
Which means
to open carry mine just in case.
08.
Okay, so right here he uncovered his concealed carry and went open carry. Was that a good move or a bad move? Like I say, most questions about law. It depends. It was a good move because he didn't want him to later say, we didn't know he had a gun and we saw a gun, we shot him. So he was like saying, you know what, I'll do the right thing. I'll volunteer, make sure everybody knows I have a gun so nobody can say they're surprised if they see a gun. So he uncovers his gun. The bad thing is now they're all targeting on him. Oh, he's got a gun too. Now we have a right under Texas law, which is a bullcrap law, that we can address him and disarm him and see if he has a concealed carry. That's why we don't have constitutional carry in Texas, and it pisses me off that cops for no reason can walk up to you and start harassing, detaining, searching, demanding ID, demanding your concealed carry if you're carrying a gun. And it's just BS. It shouldn't happen. We ought to have constitutional carry. Cops shouldn't be harassing law-abiding citizens who are carrying guns. If you're not committing a crime, leave people alone. But he uncovered here, and is that going to be good or bad? It might have protected him. I think it's bad because now they're going to say, oh, he showed us his gun. We took it as a threat. He displayed his gun in an aggressive manner, and that's why we were in fear of our lives. I haven't seen a report yet, but I know how cops are going to word this.
No subdivision of the law can pass any criminal law, which means any law that you may have enacted.
How y'all doing?
In your city.
We're just teaching your cops a lesson right now about lawful activity.
He kills me.
Does not make it illegal to carry.
They're learning about the Second Amendment today.
Or a loaded firearm.
What's that? Yes, ma'am.
What you're doing right now is holding gunpoint to a U.S. Army veteran.
You got a gun in your hand too?
To Iraq, who has never committed a crime in his life.
Okay, if the cops are really scared, notice the cop way back here. cop over here in the street, the cop way down there in the street. If they're really that scared, why are they allowing all these cars to drive around? These guys are talking to people. Aren't they supposed to be protecting and defending? Who are they protecting? I mean, where's the threat? There's a cop back. I don't know if that's a cop or somebody videotaping. Why are these cars allowed to drive around if these guys are really a threat? And that's the thing that's going to be brought up in court. The officers are going to say, we thought it was a threat. We thought it was a danger. Well, if you thought he was a threat and a danger, why didn't you block traffic? Why didn't you protect safety? Why weren't you protecting the public instead of just standing at your cars talking to these guys? In a minute, you're going to see a cop walk up to him with his gun in his holster with a taser.
Who is doing nothing illegal, and you have 3 officers holding me at gunpoint because I have not committed a crime.
No, this is Olmos Park outside of San Antonio.
Are you starting to feel dumb yet?
Are you Renee? Are you the chief? Are you the chief? No, this guy back here. Are you the chief?
Okay, evidently, I think there's a cop maybe right here in his car. So, evidently, when they called the day before and talked to the chief said, look, we have a law against open carry, but I know the state law is open carry. And evidently, it was a recorded conversation, but they've got good evidence on this department for acting kind of inappropriately. My biggest beef, just from a wanting the Second Amendment people to win, is when you start taunting and telling them they're committing a felony and I'm going to educate you. When you start doing that, it makes you look bad on film to the general public who aren't as pro Second Amendment as everyone else. You want to come off as that not everybody that carries a gun is just out there flaunting in the face of law enforcement trying to get arrested. Because then I think the public kind of tends to lose credibility. And I don't think these guys did anything which would deserve what they got. But, I'm trying to give a little both sides here and make you think outside the box.
There's a man with a gun right there.
You're the only one threatening people. You're the only one threatening people, officer. You're the only one.
You already asked if I was going to be violent.
They see 6 or 7 people out filming them. They see people walking around. Nobody has done anything dangerous. So I would agree that the cops, when they first got the call and they responded because somebody called, there was a guy with a gun, because they don't see people with guns. If they saw people with guns every day, they wouldn't be panicking, having their little snowflake attack, crying, that I need a safe space because I saw a guy with a gun. So the guys carrying guns is a good thing, but it desensitizes the public. Government wants to desensitize the public, saying guns are bad, and if you see a gun, this is what's going to happen to you, so you shouldn't carry a gun unless you want this to happen to you. But anyway, why, if they showed up and thought there was a threat because of the call, because that's what they're going to say, we were called, we didn't understand, we didn't know. You've been there for a good few minutes now, talking, seeing people moving around, allowing cars to ride. These guys are conversing. They told you they're lawfully carrying. They told you they have no harm and intent. And you're still treating them as if there's fear. If you're that scared to be a cop, man, maybe you shouldn't be a cop. I mean, how can you justify a legitimate fear? These other people riding around are riding through, driving, stopping, and talking to them. Citizens who aren't armed, who don't have police cars, long guns, bulletproof vests, uniforms, and badges, they're stopping and talking to the mean guys with guns. But the police are scared, and they're going to use that fear to justify slamming these guys down the ground and arresting them.
Violent, I am not. I am not going to shoot anyone. I am not a terrorist.
Are you the police chief?
I am an American citizen.
Are you the police chief?
This guy does not have a gun in his hand. He's walking in the open and without cover. This is huge for when any officer that uses force on these guys to say, I was in fear of my life. Well, why were you in fear, officer? This officer isn't in fear. He's walking out with no gun drawn, in the open, very easily able to get shot if he was in fear or threat, taking no cover, voluntarily talking to these guys. He's not scared. Why are you cops arresting and slamming people on the ground and so scared when you see another officer? I've said it before. Officers are allowed to act on other officers' actions. When one officer draws a gun, another officer can draw his gun. He can't shoot, but he can take what the officer saw that, hey, The officer saw something I didn't see. This is the exact reverse. This officer obviously knows, this might be the chief who's talked to him. This officer obviously knows they're no threat. I'm not in fear, and I'm walking up to these guys, and I see that they have guns. I know we're being filmed. I'm not scared. Why can't these other officers go, well, then maybe he knows something I don't? It's just the cops kind of screwed the pooch here if they're going to try and justify fear.
Or disarm myself for not committing a crime.
Are you the police chief? No, we're not getting on the ground. We're not getting on the ground.
Okay, so he's getting them on the ground. What do I always say? Where do no people belong on the ground? Are these guys no people? Yes. Why are they no people? Because the cops told them to do something and they're not doing it. And that's from the law enforcement side. I'm not saying these guys are bad, wrong, or different. Again, you can be right and still pay a price. These guys are right, but they're going to pay the price.
I'm going to tell you one more time to get on the ground. I'm not going to tell you again. If you have
Okay, so this officer comes up, walks across the street, no gun out, tells them to get on the ground. They say no, and he pulls his taser out. Is he justified? I think in a use of force he is, because they're going to say, I gave them a lawful order. We can't determine their status. They're not showing up. Now, had these guys been holding out concealed permits, it would have made their case a little bit better. If you've got a concealed permit card in your hand, and when the officer walks up, you're showing it to him, and then he refuses to take it, and he jumps you and throws you to the ground, I think you're on more solid ground, because now you showed him you're voluntarily complying with, hey, I'm not committing a crime. I'm lawfully carrying. You don't even need a concealed carry to carry a long gun. But had you had your ID out, it makes you look better. You look like you're trying to comply, and then you make the cops look like they are over-aggressive, unreasonable. Right now, the cops are going to be able to tilt the scales. This woman looks really scared. Wow, she's running for cover. You're going to tip the scales into the officer's favor when he walks up and says, you're not complying, you're no person, I'm giving you an order to get on the ground till we can determine what's going on. He never told them they're under arrest. Do you have to tell somebody they're under arrest to put them on the ground? I don't think so. When I was a cop, we didn't have to. Maybe there's some law I don't know about. But if I want you on the ground, I don't have to tell you you're under arrest. I can put you on the ground, search you, I can handcuff you, and then let you go, say it was a detention, and you were never under arrest. So, and again, I'm quoting my training and experience mainly out of California or from the military, not necessarily Texas law.
For what? What crime?
you have a license to carry a handgun?
He doesn't need a license to carry a...
Okay, here's the problem. He's trying to engage with the guy, and he asked him, do you have a license to carry? Again, had he had his card out and said, yes, sir, here's my card right here, it's in my hand, you're more than welcome to look at it and run it, he would have looked a lot better. I'm not saying he has to. I'm not saying that the law should be that way, but I'm just saying if you're going to challenge law enforcement, make them look like the bad guy clear and make you look like the cooperative guy, like you're trying to give him something. You don't need a concealed carry, but if you have one, why not give it to him and say, look, hey, I'm just trying to be cooperative, officer. We don't want any problems. You're pointing guns. I think it would be in their favor had they done that. Did they have to? No. Were they right? Yeah, they were right. They still get slammed to the ground and bleed.
Rifle.
If you harm me when not committing a crime, you can go to jail for up to 10 years.
What crime are we committing?
You're interfering with the duties right now.
Okay, again, now the officers are going to be able to say, again, they're not pointing their guns at him. Are they really scared? They're not behind cover. They're walking up and talking to him. Where is the fear? This is huge. They lost their ability to scream and cry, I was in fear of my safety. They are not in fear of their safety. Their actions clearly say they're not in fear. They're not pointing their guns now. They're standing out in the open with no cover, and they're approaching people with guns that they said they're afraid of. Man, this is a great caption right here in court.
Well, you have no duty to disarm a law-abiding citizen.
Because you can't ask me for a license.
Okay, he gets his cuffs out and he reaches for him. Is that a per se arrest? There's some case law out there that says once an officer attempts to put you under arrest and you resist, you're resisting arrest. Does the officer have to say the words, you are under arrest for this crime? I don't think he does. Maybe there's something I don't know about, but I don't think he does. But clearly, if you move away from an officer that's trying to reach and grab you, most people are going to say that was seen as resisting. You're not cooperating. You're fleeing. Now, you can say you're fleeing because I didn't commit a crime, and I was right. And you may be right, and you may have not committed a crime, but you're still going to get slammed to the ground and bleed.
I'm not doing anything
Get
against
on the ground.
Hey, look, man, I'm not doing anything.
You're not the... No! Get back! God damn it! Get back! Turn off the damn... Get on the ground. Get on the ground. Get on the ground now.
Okay, so what you can't see here, the rest of the video, I'll put a link to this video in the description. The chief, I think, tases him and gives him a long ride on the taser after he's on the ground or right before he gets on the ground when the guy reaches for him. They've got some other video. It's going to be released. Their march or their meeting, the Second Amendment walk and talk, meet the citizens, show everybody that, you know, they're not everybody carries guns, a bad guy, I think is on the 7th. I'm sure a couple people will put links in here to it. I'm going to put a link to this video and to the other video. I'm going to put a link to this video where they talk about they get the guys out of jail. And in this video, they get a couple of guys coming out of the jail. These guys don't put much in their description. When you do videos, man, put a description so people can read or copy. That's just a tip to whoever uploaded this video. Sometimes I go to the description so I can try to figure out what's happening, and there's nothing in there. And I know YouTube tends to block them a lot with description, but if you put in here the date, what happened, the events, just write something out, then people can read it if they don't want to watch the video and decide whether they want to watch it, or you can put links to other videos, etc. They're going to be like, who's this guy telling us? I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just making a suggestion because when I go down there, it'd be nice to figure it out. But anyway, at this, hell, I thought they, you know what? Maybe it was the one before this one. Let me see if it goes back to the one before this one. Oh, here it is. I'll put a link to this video.
I can't feel any of this right here either.
So this is the one that got tased and slammed down.
So we're documenting CJ's injuries.
It looks good. I just have my medical bracelet.
I'm with you, brother. Believe me.
Hiding over there.
That's it.
And Amy came in.
Okay, so these guys are doing, like I said, I think they're doing good work and good things. If you can support them, great. If you can watch their videos, like them, subscribe, whatever. Any way you can help these guys, I'm all for, guys, supporting and defending the Second Amendment. So I'm going to put as many links as I can in the description. If I get more information that I think I need to put in there, I will add it to the description. So if you see something in the comments, if I read something, I'll add it in the description. So you, instead of reading all the comments, go to the description, and I'll keep adding to it. All right, we'll end that there on protecting the Second Amendment. And Oslo, Beat 'em Up County, whatever that city was. Awesome, Olmos City down in Texas.